Both the FBI and Texas Rangers have launched a joint investigation tonight into the shooting death of a young immigrant woman by a Border Patrol agent near Laredo. Eyewitness News border reporter Oscar Morgaine spoke to a neighbor who heard the gunshot and captured the aftermath on her cell phone.
I heard the shot through the window, so I came out.
Rio Bravo resident Martha Martinez is still shaken up by what happened midday Wednesday in the empty lot next door.
She was laying down, so they turned her over. As soon as they turned her over, all this side was full of blood.
An undocumented immigrant woman, reportedly in her early 20s, shot by a Border Patrol agent who responded to a call of illegal activity. Martha quickly pulled out her phone and began broadcasting live on Facebook.
Come on, guys. You handle it, la mataron.
In one of her videos, paramedics are seen performing CPR on the victim
Don't interfere in the investigation,
while authorities secured the crime scene.
Martha says this is the exact location where she found agents and the victim while she was recording from the other side of her fence.
The victim's blood marks the spot. In a preliminary report, Customs and Border Protection explains the agent came under attack by several people using blunt objects while trying to detain them, prompting the agent to open fire.
I saw him enter that trailer, so then I saw him start yelling.
Martha then ran over to the other side of her property where she spotted one of the agents apprehending two other men.
So I'm telling him, you killed the girl, and he's saying, I didn't kill her.
Martha, clearly upset, began lashing out at the officers.
I feel very angry. I don't know if I wanted to cry because what I was seeing, but I didn't feel like it was right what they did.
FBI is investigating the agent's claim of being assaulted, while the Texas Rangers look into the shooting of the female victim, who's yet to be identified. In Rio Bravo on the Texas-Mexico border, I'm Oscar Morgaine reporting.